What's up, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Goal Line Dynasty. Today, Tyler and I are going to be doing a one quarterback startup mock draft for those Dynasty squads. But before we get to the video, Tyler, how we doing, buddy?
I'm good. It seems like my internet's lagging a little bit, but yeah, I love the one quarterback gang. It makes startups that much more difficult to manage. If you think the 112 sucks in a super flex draft, try it in a one quarterback. And I'm going to be drafting late today. We had a little competition, a little battle of egos before we hit the record button on who was going to decide to draft later. And when I finally picked the 112, Mikey succumbed and was like, "All right, fine, I'll do the 105." But nevertheless, I'll take the 110 and Mikey will take the 105. And we're going to have some fun because it looks like the ADP is frigged up.
Anyway, so let's jump on into our one quarterback here. So, like you said, you are drafting from the 10th spot. I'm going from the 5 spot. I'm going to hit that start draft button, and let's see where it's going to take us. So, oh my God, we're restarting this.
Dude, you know what's so funny too is I did an underdog draft the other day where Pat Mahomes was the 101. So it did happen in real life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I can totally see it happening in some leagues, but those leagues aren't going to be leagues that I join because, I'm not joining leagues with people who are taking Pat Mahomes at number 1 overall in one QB. Let's start this over and let's see what happens this time around. All right, that's better. Jefferson, Chase, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey. Okay, see, Pat Mahomes should be available to me at 105. I'm not taking him at 105. That's insane. This is one quarterback. More or less, why is Pat Mahomes number 5 and 1 QB? Josh Allen is 10. Jalen Hurts is 11. I mean, dude, I love quarterbacks, but you will not catch me dead taking a quarterback in the first round of a 1 QB draft. How do you feel about that?
I won't take a quarterback until after the 3rd round. I think 3rd round is probably like the earliest, like late 3rd round, like 312. Like I could stomach taking like Lamar Jackson there, or like Joe Burrow. You know, like someone who's going to be like a real advantage. I'd rather Lamar, but I mean, ideally, like in a real life scenario, Mahomes, Allen should be there in the 3rd round for you. So yeah, I'm not taking one until after that.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm probably on the same board. Maybe if somebody slips to the late 2nd round, that shouldn't. I'll think about pulling the trigger there. But yeah, probably not to the late 3rd, maybe even early 4th, and 1 QB startups here. I was just checking the draft settings because I'm looking at the projections. 196, 184. I mean, that seems pretty light both for AJ Brown and CD Lamb. I was making sure we had everything set up correctly, but it doesn't look like the projections takes into account their receptions, which is very weird. I've never seen that before. But anyway, I'm going to take AJ Brown. He's my wide receiver 3 in Dynasty. It's really close. I mean, him and CD Lamb are kind of 1A or 3A and 3B, I should say. I'd be fine with either one of them, but I like AJ Brown's upside a bit more than CD Lamb. But again, not going to go wrong with either of those picks. So whichever of those two is there at 105, that's what I'm going to end up doing.
Yeah, I'm personally a CD guy, but it's a coin flip, like you said. I'm gonna steal Garrett Wilson here and like just laugh about it. There's no shot 110. I'll take
steal Garrett Wilson. No, I mean it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are taking Garrett Wilson over AJ Brown and CD Lamb right now, which in my opinion is ludicrous. But I think Garrett Wilson is firmly placed into that wide receiver 5 conversation, and I think he is personally my Dynasty wide receiver 5. So I like getting him at 110 there.
Yeah, he's just about like the wide receiver 5 in Dynasty, but like think about where he goes in super flex drafts. In super flex drafts, he goes in like the early 2nd, mid-2nd round. So like if I'm getting him at the 110 in a one quarterback draft, then I'm gonna smash that all day, and I'm gonna have a sickening wide receiver core to start this one off and go take Jalen Waddle here.
Yeah, that's a pretty good 1-2 punch. You got 2 young guys that are both under 24 years old. Jalen Waddle is your weekly boomer bust, and I don't even want to call him that because when he busts, he still is going to get you 10 to 12 points. But when he booms, he's hitting 25 or 30. That's a pretty damn good start there in a 1 QB, if I do say so myself. But so I got AJ Brown at 105. I do really like that. I don't love punting on running back. Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs, Najee Harris, all on the short list for me here. You more than anyone know that I also love T. Higgins. T. Higgins is personally my wide receiver 7, wide receiver 8, if I'm remembering my rankings correctly. So I do love seeing him there. Let's see what else we got here. Probably won't reach too much farther than that. So I'm kind of stuck with Saquon, Gibbs, Najee, or T. Higgins here. Stephon Diggs also tempting, but again, I do like going with a bit more youth in my first couple of rounds there. Shoot, man. Let's project forward a little bit. What's going to be available for me at the 305? Because this is what I'm doing in a lot of drafts, right? I'm going to project forward and see what's going to fall to me at that next spot. I think I don't think one of the receivers that I really like is going to fall to me. So I am going to take T. Higgins here and just see what kind of running back I might be able to get lucky to get at the 305.
And it turns out ADP says Kenny Walker is your best option.
Yeah, ADP says screw you. I would have been fine with Najee, Saquon, ETN, Gibbs. I really would have been fine with any of those running backs as my RB1. I don't see myself taking Kenny Walker here. Devontae Adams, not a terrible idea. I don't mind going older in the third round since I went so young with my first 2 picks, but still just I think Devontae is going to really I don't want to say he's going to really struggle because he's still going to be good, but having Jimmy G throwing to him this year in a discombobulated offense, I don't really know if I want to invest third round draft capital in that. Same with Kenny Walker. What's the split going to be? Devonta Smith, I like him. I like him a lot. But I think if I'm picking based on this list, I'm stuck between Mark Andrews and Tony Pollard. The only issue with Tony Pollard is I'm not convinced that they're not going to bring in someone. Like, I'm not even convinced that they won't bring back Zeke for like the vet minimum or something. And Pollard is still going to be good. He's going to be a top 10 running back. I have him projected as the RB3 for 2023, but that's only because there's not really anyone else on the roster. And I don't know, Tyler, you as a Cowboys fan, do you think they're going to let Pollard just be a workhorse this year?
I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance that like Ronald Jones is on the roster. He could like not do anything significant in terms of fantasy, but he could be the one to take a load off for Tony Pollard. I mean, the sky is the ceiling with him. I mean, if Zeke's gone, Zeke put up top 10 numbers last year. So if those opportunities are not there for Tony Pollard, like God knows he could have RB1 potential right now. Like it's pretty insane. But the floor in terms of next year is also very low. So
I wanted to pull the trigger on Pollard so bad. You know how I am with Mark Andrews, though. I love Mark Andrews. I love his upside. I'm a big believer in making sure you grab an elite tight end for your dynasty roster because I feel like most of the people that you see win their leagues, especially in one QB, they have some sort of top 5 player at the tight end position. So I'm going to take Andrews. It was really hard not to take Pollard there, though, because like you said, he does have RB1 overall upside if they don't bring in anyone. And that's pure speculation that they will. So I don't know. Buyer's remorse. I kind of wish I went with Pollard, but it is what it is.
I don't think you should have gone with Pollard. I think even just look back to a year ago when we were doing these mock drafts, like, dude, Pollard was going in like the 8th round, 6th, 7th round or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. I haven't looked back to that ADP, but like he wasn't going anywhere near the 3rd round. Mark Andrews, we were taking at the 1-2 turn last year and like being ecstatic about it. Remember that? Like that was so. I mean, the fact that we're getting at the 3-5, I think looking at it in hindsight that way, I think that would have been the deal breaker for me. You just prevented me from going after a Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson stack here. So I guess you kind of made my decision for me. I'm going to, if Lamar Jackson falls to me here at the 4-3, I'm going to take him. But for right now, I'm going to lock in another guy who I think is elite and going to be considered a top 10 dynasty wide receiver in a year's time from now. And pretty much almost is already before he's even stepped foot on the field as a rookie. In JSN here. I think just bolstering this wide receiver room up is pretty gnarly, and I could really just smash the strategy and do what I do every single time and take Drake London here and just have a 4-man freaking like arsenal here at wide receiver for the next 8 years. in Dynasty, but instead I'm going to take the positional advantage because, like you said, I think a lot of winning teams have top 5 tight ends, but I think also like it gets discounted sometimes in one quarterback leagues how much that quarterback advantage can be, especially like as the amount of starters gets lower. I think too, like obviously that matters even more in a one quarterback league. Like you have to have an elite guy if you want to have a shot at being a top 2 team going into the playoffs and then making a run that way. Obviously anything can happen if you finish 6th and make the playoffs and get in there. But I think having an elite quarterback and positional advantage there is also important. And like I said, especially the less starters, like the more important it is.
As soon as you started saying, you were pointing out that I was right about having a positional advantage, I was 100% certain you were going with Kyle Pitts. So when you took Lamar Jackson, really threw me through a whirl there, buddy. But I agree. I think you should go after, a top tier quarterback there. And part of me is tempted to actually take Trevor Lawrence here. I know some people are wondering, why would I take Trevor Lawrence over Justin Fields? The issue is I think Justin Fields does have a higher fantasy ceiling. I don't really think there's a competition. I think Fields' ceiling is infinitely higher than Trevor Lawrence's, but his floor is also significantly lower. I mean, if Justin Fields doesn't win football games in real life this year, who's to say that he's still going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL? Like, yeah, his fantasy production is awesome, but he can't throw for more than 2,400 passing yards. And if that doesn't improve with DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet and everyone that they brought in or that they're getting back healthy this year, I'm just scared to make a significant investment in Justin Fields because I really see a path out of the NFL for him in the next couple of years. I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, right? I could be completely wrong, but Trevor Lawrence offers a safety. He's going to be, weekly top 8, top 10 quarterback. He's probably not going to have many winning weeks, I should say, but Trevor Lawrence is never going to be the reason why I lose a football game. So I will take T-Law there at the 408 and hope that Jordan Addison falls to me next. Let's see. Damn it. He went. Oh, well.
Yeah, I like T-Law there. I think it was a good choice.
Yeah, it's a part of me wishes I would have waited. I think I could have got him here at the 505, and I could have taken Jordan Addison because I am really high on Jordan Addison. But I am going to take my RB1. I'm very high on Miles Sanders. I'm a Panthers fan. Maybe I'm just being a homer, but we've detailed this a couple of times here on the show. Miles Sanders is poised to be a workhorse in Carolina. His receiving upside is going to return. I'm not going to say he's going to be an Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey type receiver, but I think, what a lot of people expect out of guys like Travis Etienne, right? I think you could see that in Miles Sanders, and you get him, 2.5 rounds after Etienne right now. Plus, Miles Sanders is only, 25 years old? I think he is. 26. Okay. Well, he's 26 years old, but you're still going to get a couple years out of him in Carolina. So I'm fine with taking him as my RB with this squad.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because I'm looking for running backs right now, and I don't feel like Aaron Jones makes sense. I don't feel like Dalvin Cook makes sense. Rashad White, not really. It's like
That's the thing with running backs right now in startups is, Ramondre falling to 402. I think that's pretty big. I'd be pretty pumped to get Ramondre at 402 in any of my leagues, but nobody wants to buy running backs in the trade market right now, but also look at the landscape. After the first 10 to 12 are off the board, you're like, shit, what do I actually want to do with this position?
that's exactly why, nobody wants to buy him. It's because after the first, not even 10 or 12, it's like after once you pass for Ramondre, honestly, Kenny Walker and Derrick Henry, I'm iffy about holding them on rosters unless I know I'm going to win. But I'm sickened because I think George Kittle is the best value on the board, but I'm gonna go with Aaron Jones. I'm gonna just take who I think is gonna be another top 12 running back this year, and try to build a winning roster, I guess, because I think I have one with Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle leading the way, whatever JSN turns into.
I think
sick.
if you're going for the winning roster, I mean, obviously JSN's going to take a little while to come on strong, right? But he'll get there. He'll get there probably by the end of the 2023 season. Are you strongly considering Calvin Ridley at this point, or maybe even a guy like Dalvin Cook, who have, a much shorter window than some of the other guys here, but are probably going to have a solid 2023?
Calvin Ridley more so than Dalvin Cook, because I know what the situation is with Calvin Ridley, and he has an elite quarterback attached to him. So I think that's where I'm going to go here. I think it's good value. I mean, the guy's going as like a high end wide receiver 2 in underdog drafts or something like that. He's going very early in like the third round, fourth round, about off the top of my head. So people are expecting him to do a lot. Granted, he's not that old. He's 28 according to Sleeper. He's got a couple years left with a quarterback. We know what the quarterback situation is going to be unstable, so he's got time to get his footing before he has to retire and gets run out of the league. So I like Calvin Ridley's value there at the 6.3. I mean, granted, I liked his value last year when I got him at the 12.2 or whatever it was. But yeah, I like Calvin Ridley. I like having him on my rosters.
Yeah, and I had a feeling that's where you would ultimately go. Calvin Ridley's a great asset for you here. I mean, he's essentially your wide receiver 3 at the moment, right? With JSN probably just having your flex appeal for now, but JSN's obviously the better long-term play. I don't really need to think too hard at this pick. I need a solid wide receiver 3, and that's exactly what I'm going to get in Chris Godwin. I mean, Chris Godwin, I would be comfortable taking as my wide receiver 2. I would be really pumped to have him as my wide receiver 3. I mean, he was pretty solid last year, right? And I know he's going from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask or whatever. But, like, dude, look at his totals. From week 4 on, 12 points, 15, 11, 13, 10, 19. Like, he is as safe as they come. He's going to get you double-digit points every time he steps on the field. And he is going to have spike weeks here and there. That's the perfect thing that I want in a wide receiver 3. And he's only 27 years old, so I'm going to have him in that position for quite some time. So give me Godwin 10 out of 10 times when he falls to the 608.
Yeah, I definitely like Godwin there. I mean, he's a guy that I think you were drafting, again, earlier, just like the situation before with Mark Andrews. You were drafting Chris Godwin like the 4th, 5th round last year. So he's going around later in terms of ADP. And I like what you're getting there. I mean, I think I probably would have gone with Keenan Allen over Chris Godwin, even though he's a bit older, like a lot older, actually. At 4 years, it's pretty significant. But I just like Keenan Allen's situation with Justin Herbert a little bit better, even though he could be gone after this year. Chris Godwin's just got a lot of question marks. Although, I mean, next year I could be totally in the woods, and he could be just like Calvin Ridley this year, and he could be playing with Caleb Williams, just like Calvin Ridley's Trevor Lawrence, So, like, who knows? I could be totally wrong.
Yeah, I've always been a little higher than the consensus on Godwin, I think. At this spot at 705, Amari Cooper is tempting, but I am going to skip out. Jameson Williams, very tempting. I do really like Jameson Williams. But the thing that I'm realizing is I need a RB2. And if I'm following the ADP, if I'm lucky, my RB2 is going to be AJ Dillon, Kendre Miller, Brian Robinson. That disgusts me. And I am going to reach a little bit for an RB2. Now, there's 2 reasons why I'm going to take the guy that I am. One, I need an RB2, and I'm fine with a temporary fix. The main reason why I'm taking him is so that you can't take James Conner, because I know you will at either the 7-10 or 8-3 to get your RB2. And quite frankly, buddy, I just want to do it to screw you over.
Yeah, I saw that coming, but it's okay. I did it to you in real life, I'm pretty sure, in our recent free agency during our salary cap league. Sorry, I couldn't get that sentence out. But I'm going to live, and I'm going to take a guy who I'm not necessarily the biggest fan in the world of, but we're at the end of the 7th round, and he's a starting running back in a pretty elite offense, I would say. At least I think most would say. I'm going to take James Cook and just kind of swing for the fences on what he could be.
I mean, dude, with James Cook, he's probably not going to be some like ground shaking running back most weeks, but in PPR formats, he's gonna be a pretty damn safe RB2. Like you'd probably be pretty pumped if he finished the season as like RB18 or RB20, and I have a hard time believing that he'll finish outside of there as long as he's fully healthy in this offense. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking James Cook at 7-10.
Yeah, I think it's probably like my best spot, my best chance at an advantage. I mean, like Devon A-Chain, obviously he got all the upside in the world, but I mean he's got too many risks for me. Since I haven't invested in my running back room, I think James Cook is the best combination of floor and upside, just because he does have that receiving ceiling. He obviously saw like a decent amount of targets towards the end of the year last year. I could go A-Chain here. I scroll the receivers. I see Christian Kirk is also that wouldn't be a terrible move for me if it was a shallower format. If I could take Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley and just start whoever the main producer is. Tyler Lockett could be an option. But Pat Fryermuth is still on the board. I really like Pat Fryermuth. I think that he's done really good things in the league so far, and I think that like the entire Pittsburgh offense, if you hadn't noticed, like just the touchdowns went like kaput. So the fantasy points also went kaput with everything, and we're hoping that with any kind of improvement, Pat Fryermuth could get back to like what on track to what he was. I mean, he broke out very early. He produced as a rookie tight end, which you never really see, and really I think has panned out, and I think could end up being one of these really elite options at some point.
I was 1,000% sure you would be taking Pat Fryermuth there. There's nobody that I know that is higher on Pat Fryermuth than you are. So the fact that he was near top of the ADP, you still needed a tight end. It was all too perfect. So no surprise there. I'm going to make my pick pretty quickly here. I'm going to take Kendre Miller. I really like the talent in Kendre Miller. I'm a big fan of his. I don't know if we're going to see his passing upside. I think it's there. I think it's kind of untapped potential. But what I'm really investing in is the fact that Alvin Kamara is on his way out of New Orleans in the next couple of years. Jamal Williams is only going to be there for a year or two. If Kamara gets suspended, Kendre Miller's getting a pretty good opportunity. Jamal Williams, as much as we loved his 17 touchdowns last year, he's really not that good, right? Like, he had a shit ton of goal line carries. He wasn't super efficient. And I think Kendre Miller can be both the Alvin Kamara role and the Jamal Williams role at some point in his career. I don't know. I don't necessarily see it happening immediately in 2023. I think we're going to see glimpses of it. But taking him as my RB3, especially with taking, 26-year-old Miles Sanders and 27 or 28-year-old James Conner, I'm fine with taking a stab on Kendre Miller there as my RB3.
Yeah, I like Kendre Miller, especially because like Alvin Kamara could still be going to jail this year. No, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but like he could end up still getting suspended. And I mean, there's still a long time before the season for the NFL to hand down that punishment. Haven't really heard much news on it. It's kind of gone like radio silent, but there still is that possibility. And Kendre Miller could like be the lead back there for a stretch this year. So.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping for. See a little breakout from him. I got 35 seconds left here. I need another flex option. Part of me is tempted to take one of the quarterbacks because I feel like we're in a dead zone right now, right? Gabe Davis I like, but I don't love him because I love him in best ball because I can guarantee my spot starts with him, but he's so hard to predict. I'm kind of stuck between Gabe Davis and Elijah Moore. We've seen Elijah Moore do it over a small sample size. You know what? I am going to take Elijah Moore. We've seen him do it over a small sample size. Disappointing year in 2022 for sure, but Cleveland sent a day 2 pick to get Elijah Moore on their team. And that's enough of an investment for me to say that, okay, Elijah Moore is going to go and he will be Deshaun Watson's number 2 target right off the bat. And apparently they've had some good chemistry building this offseason. So, I'll take Elijah Moore as my wide receiver 4 and cross my fingers that I didn't make a huge mistake.
Yeah, I don't think you did. I mean, I think Elijah Moore was on a list of 3 guys who I was looking at here at this pick. And I think that he showed us a decent amount his rookie year in terms of like what you look for out of a rookie wide receiver. He's in a terrible spot, as we saw. Even like Garrett Wilson struggled in what Elijah Moore's spot was basically like last year. He didn't have all that great of a time when Zach Wilson was starting on the field. So I think Elijah Moore definitely has some upside potential to go out there with Deshaun Watson. I think there's an like inherited risk by owning Deshaun Watson's wide receivers outside of Amari Cooper, who we've already seen do it. But I mean, if Deshaun Watson gets back to elite level, then Elijah Moore is going to be productive by default because it's hard to be a top 8 quarterback and you have your wide receiver 2 not be, a top 24, top 20, top 32 wide receiver in the league. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to take RB3 here, who I think was, pretty solid last year, and the team did not draft behind him this year. I do not like Antonio Gibson, so I'm going to take Brian Robinson, and I think that that's a kind of a safe like depth running back to have on a squad here that's really cheap for the price. I think I can rely on 10 to 12 points a week out of him when I need him to start. So I like B-Rob there. Not sure how you feel about it. I'll let you talk in a second, but I'm gonna go with Rashad Bateman because I think he's literally. I saw a tweet the other day, and I don't remember who it was, but it's like George Pickens and Rashad Bateman are the same exact person, except Rashad Bateman has gotten injured and he's being drafted 5 rounds later. So like, give me Rashad Bateman. I think like we've seen him do good things when he was healthy. I think this is like a price that I'm definitely willing to spend. I think I was drafting him in like the 7th or 8th round last year. He gets hurt again. I'll take him 3 rounds later this year and, double down on what could be the mistake, but I think he's a talented receiver. If he stays injury prone forever, then, well, I'll just go broke drafting him. But I like Rashad Bateman's talent, and I like what he offers in terms of upside in the 10th round.
Yeah, well, back to Robinson. I would take Gibson over him personally. I don't like the safety, the quote unquote safety with Brian Robinson. I think the safety, I don't know if he's as safe as you think he is. I mean, he was wildly inefficient last year. Then again, in his defense, he got shot in the leg. So, I mean, that probably didn't help his efficiency, right? It'll be interesting to see what they do, but he definitely seems to be Ron Rivera's preferred back. We'll see what Eric Bieniemy thinks with that running back room, but I'm team Antonio Gibson. As far as Rashad Bateman goes, the talent's definitely there, right? There's no disputing that. The situation in 2023, sharing the field with Mark Andrews, OBJ, Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, right? Kind of scares me, makes me a little bit nervous. But again, if you're betting on talent in round 10, Bateman's the guy that you're going to want to do it with. So no faults on that one there. I got 30 seconds to make my pick here. And, dude, I got to be completely honest with you. I have absolutely no idea what I want to do here. Josh Downs is tempting. I do like him, but he's a tiny guy, and it's going to take Anthony Richardson a little while to come onto it. I'm going to go for broke with this pick because I'm competing in year 1. I drafted old running backs, and I'm ready to go. We're going to take Michael Thomas. Absolute swing for the fences. Could be a waste of a round 10 pick if Michael Thomas is Michael Thomas. But if Michael Thomas can be whatever he was back 3-4 years ago, that's the steal of the draft right there. So we will take the risk.
For sure. I mean, ever since you really brought up the discrepancy in Mike Thomas for me, in terms of like where he's being drafted, I've been drafting him all over the place on Underdog. I've been trying to buy like little shares, and it's like, why not? If you can send 2/3 and get like the upside of Michael Thomas, you can't get that anywhere else in the league. So I'm going to take Michael Thomas like all day.
Yeah, I really can't complain too much. This next pick, I'm stuck between 2 guys. Tajay Spears and Chiggy Okonkwo. I think Chiggy Okonkwo is going to have himself a nice little breakout year in 2023. Then again, everybody on Twitter and YouTube and everything is saying that about Chiggy. He's really not. He's no longer a sleeper and whatsoever. He is rising up draft boards. People are now taking attention to Chiggy, so I can't even call him a sleeper even here at the 11th round. I can see this time, even in a month, his ADP being a full 2 rounds higher. Like I'm not surprised if people draft Chiggy over Schultz, Laporta, Kmet at this point. I'm really not. Even a couple of these guys I can see him competing with. The value's there, right? Like if I'm looking just for value, I would take Chiggy. And you know what? We're in the 11th round. I should go for value. So I'm going to take Chiggy. breakout year 2023. Whether it's Ryan Tannehill and his noodle arm, Malik Willis and his noodle arm, or Will Levis and his inexperienced, inaccurate arm doing his checkdowns, Okonkwo is going to be a safe bet for 2023. Stacking him with Mark Andrews makes me feel really damn good about this tight end room.
And Chiggy's like becoming a sell for me. Like I thought he was like a under the radar, like low tight end, like beginning of this offseason. And it's gotten to the point where it's like, dude, I'll take whatever draft picks. Like I'll put him up for auction. Like whoever's the highest bidder is in terms of draft picks, like you can have him because he's pretty much. I'm guaranteed to get more return than I probably deserve for Chiggy Okonkwo. But I love him as my tight end too. Like in terms of what the role he's going to play on your roster, that's absolutely fine. A lot of people would have him like projected to try to be a starter for them. So I like Chiggy there in the 11th as your backup. It definitely has trade value. I'm stuck. I'm stuck a lot. All right. Here's what I'm gonna try to do. Alan Lazard was halfway decent last year when it was like his first time ever being like healthy for pretty much like a full season. It was his second time rather. But yeah, I'll take Alan Lazard. He's playing with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers likes him. There's not really a clear-cut wide receiver 2 on this New York offense, in my opinion. So I think like Alan Lazard could definitely step up and be that guy and be he was like kind of like a league winner, not a league winner in terms of like his upside, but he was like a guy who you could throw into your starting lineup like week by week and feel comfortable with it. And you spent nothing on him last year. I think this is kind of a similar situation now. So I'm going to take Alan Lazard.
Yeah, I like the pick of Lazard. He is actually one of my favorite selections at his ADP in best ball right now. I know this is obviously Dynasty, but Lazard is going to have spike weeks and in 2023. And to your point, I mean, he's the only receiver. Well, actually, I guess Randall Cobb is there as well. Aaron Rodgers brought the whole squad, but Lazard is the main receiver that has chemistry with Rodgers. And make no mistake, I mean, Garrett Wilson's the wide receiver 1 in this offense, but Alan Lazard, I could argue that at least for the first half of the season, while Rodgers is still getting up to speed with his new Jets teammates, Lazard is going to be the guy that he leans on in those key situations. And I would be pretty content having him as my wide receiver 5 for my Dynasty squad. So I do really like that pick at this point.
Yeah, I've drafted Alan Lazard in like 25% of my underdog drafts at this point, so I'm right there with you. I drafted him a lot. I didn't even realize I was still on the clock. I thought I only had 1 pick. I'm an idiot. Last minute decision. Give me Samaje Perine, who should probably be productive early on in the season because Javonte Williams should not be healthy yet. So I'll take Samaje Perine and what could be a handful of starts here, like 5 or 6 starts, probably at the ceiling, to where I'm going to be comfortable starting him.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. And I mean, Sean Payton's offense always features 2 running backs. I think Samaje Perine, he got a little bit of hype at some point this offseason, but every day that we get closer to training camp, people are getting more and more excited about Javonte, and people are starting to forget about Samaje Perine again. So I think round 12, Samaje Perine, I don't want to call him a steal, but he is going to be a productive running back in 2023, and you can put him in your lineup for a spot start here and there, or after he has a solid week 1 and week 2, you could just sell him to the highest bidder, kind of like what I'll probably do with Okonkwo here. But got a minute on the clock. I'm not going for another quarterback. I don't really like Sky Moore, but a part of me is like, do I take him? Because I mean, Sky Moore was pretty good for the Chiefs in the playoffs, and I know Pat Mahomes does like him, but they did just draft another wide receiver. MVS is still there. Obviously, Travis Kelce's still there. Like, really, what is the limit for Sky Moore? I don't know. But as I go through the rest of this list, there's really not anyone that's turning my head. So despite not personally being a big fan of Sky Moore, I will buy into the hype that some other people are selling. If it's a botched pick, I don't care. It's the 12th round. I'll turn around. I'll sell him if I need to. And if I hit, thanks for everyone who believes in him. You convinced me.
Yeah, whatever, dude. It's Sky Moore. You're getting a piece of the Kansas City offense. Who cares?
Exactly. So I still need another running back. I have Kendre Miller, I have James Conner, I have Miles Sanders. Now, James Conner is not the epitome of running back health. So I do feel like I need to give myself an insurance policy here and take another running back, maybe even two more running backs before this draft is over. And I do really like Devin Singletary, and I do really like Deontay Foreman. Devin Singletary, I think, is going to be the passing down back for Houston this year, and he's still going to get plenty of touches. Like Dameon Pierce is going to get the lion's share of first and second down work, but Devin Singletary, make no mistake, is going to be a factor in this offense, especially an offense with a rookie quarterback. And I think the dink and dunk passes for him could be a very beneficial thing for fantasy. So I'm considering him. And then I also have Deontay Foreman on my short list because Roshan Johnson's in Chicago now. He's going to be good. Khalil Herbert's in Chicago. He's okay, a little overrated for my likings. But Foreman is 110% their goal line back. Now, what does that mean? I don't know, because obviously Justin Fields is there too. So realistically, how many touchdowns can I expect for Foreman? So it all comes down to, do I want to go for the PPR upside in Devin Singletary, or do I want to go for the touchdown upside in Deontay Foreman? My goodness, I don't know. Since I'm going to be starting this guy, hopefully not very often, I'm going to take the touchdown upside in Deontay Foreman and hope that I start him in the week or two where I really need him.
Yeah, I don't mind Deontay Foreman. I also actually kind of draft him a lot in best ball as well. I mean, and it's getting to the point in the draft where, like, that's what you're drafting is you're if you end up with these guys in your lineup, it's like they're probably not going to put up an average amount of points. It's like you're hoping they're booming, like, because they're most likely busting. It's like a hit or miss for these guys. So I don't mind taking any like random weekly upside late here that you might like prefer in a best ball format. I don't really believe in that. Like, I prefer in a best ball format versus in a weekly like lineup format. I mean, points are points, and when they're scored is when they're scored. So give me here. With having nothing to do with what we were just talking about, I'm going to go with Izzy because I think he's going to have an opportunity to get some touches early on in the season while Brees is recovering. I think it was the perfect opportunity to really bolster my running back room and put a little bit of potential there. You know how much I love Brees Hall, but he's going to need a handcuff at least early on in the season, if not for this entire season. So I'm going to also here, I think has a lot of upside, actually, and there's a lot of value here in this guy. Adam Thielen, he's not totally bad anymore. I think Justin Jefferson just got, like, really good. I mean, he's getting old, but he's probably going to be the best receiver in this Panthers offense as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I think he's better than TJ Chark. He's better than Terrace Marshall, better than Laviska Shenault, better than Hayden Hurst, Tommy Trumbull, whoever you want to even talk about in this Panthers offense. I think Adam Thielen is probably the best weapon, probably going to be the most consistent for a young quarterback. And I could have just bought, 10 to 12 points a week and the solid wide receiver 3 in Dynasty in the 14th round, and nobody's talking about him at all.
Yeah, I agree. As a Panthers fan, I can confirm. I think Thielen's going to be, well, to be completely honest, I think Thielen's going to be the number 2 receiver this year. He's the safest bet to be the number 1 guy. Maybe it's a bold take, but I'm really holding on to the Terrace Marshall breakout because, I mean, dude, Frank Reich loves him. Adam Thielen loves him. Bryce Young loves him. Like, I'm really fingers crossed that this is the year that we get our draft value out of Terrace Marshall. But no, if I were a betting man on this, if I'm thinking with my money and not with my heart, Adam Thielen would get my vote to be the number 1 receiving threat in this Carolina offense. So getting him in round 14, nothing wrong with that at all. Pretty damn good, actually, if you ask me. I don't know what I want to do. So at this point, like, I really stopped following ADP after round 10 or 11. And even up until that point, I'm still going to take the guys that I want to take. Like Tyler Boyd, if I didn't have T. Higgins, would be tempting. Don't care for Tank Dell. Cedric Tillman's cool, but this is still way too early. I don't need a third tight end. Leonard Fournette is not even on a team right now. Like, looking at this list, there's really nothing that butters my biscuit, as you could say. So I'm going to scroll down let's find, where are you, Terrace Marshall? I got 8 seconds to find you. There you are. I'm going to get my guy and Terrace Marshall. You do not need to take him in round 14. You really don't. But I did because, one, I want him. Two, this is only 15 rounds. Terrace Marshall's a guy you could get a little bit closer to his ADP. But maybe this is biased because from my experience, I am the Terrace Marshall guy, right? But from my experience, whenever I do mocks or dynasty startups or even best ball, whatever, someone always reaches for Terrace Marshall. Usually it is me, but believe it or not, some people do beat me to it. So Terrace Marshall's a guy. ADP probably around 18 or 19 in these dynasty startups. If you really want him, you're going to have to take him probably around 16, I would say. But I took him there for just I don't know. I don't really love the board this late. I mean, we're in get your guy territory, right? So that's what I did.
Take him because you wanted to bring him up. That's exactly why.
Exactly. So my last pick of the draft, I'm stuck between two guys to go on and get your guys. My first one is Isaiah Hodgins. I think Isaiah Hodgins could be the wide receiver one for the Giants this year, and he's the least talked about guy. I mean, if you look at his stretch in 2022, he had a 5-game stretch, 15 points, 15 points, 7, 22, and 14. Big dude, 6'3", 201, only 24 years old. I think, I mean, with everything that the Giants wanted in Kenny Golladay, that's kind of what Isaiah Hodgins showed them over that 5-game span. Granted, it's a 5-game span. I'm not going to commit to it. I'm not going to go crazy about it. But he's a guy that I'm strongly considering here. But if I'm being smart, and I should be smart, I'm going to take James Conner's only understudy, Deontay Ingram, really the only other running back in this Arizona offense right now. That's worth pretty much anything. He's only 23 years old, 6 foot, 221. He's not amazing by any stretch of the imagination. But I mentioned earlier, James Conner always seems to get himself hurt at some point. Ingram's going to slot in and at the very worst be the 1A of this offense. So I feel like I just locked up some safety at the running back position with my last pick in round 15.
Yeah, that's good to go get the handcuff. Like if it's not going to be James Conner, it's going to be, Deontay Ingram, assuming that none of those free agent running backs are still really there mid-season. Here, I could just take like Kenny Pickett and cheat and be done with it and be boring. But for the last pick, I'll take Michael Gallup. I think he's just been riddled with injuries his entire career. Even last year, like he was coming off of that torn ACL. Kind of have to discount that year. Do I think he's ever going to finish as a top 15 wide receiver? No, but I think he could finish as a top 28 wide receiver at the ceiling. I think he's a really good deep ball wide receiver, and if this offense commits to throwing the ball again and he ends up hitting his ceiling, I do think that he could post like a wide receiver 3 finish and be a real steal late in the draft, considering he's healthy now.
I mean, I think so. 2019, he was the wide receiver 22 in PPR. The year after that, he was wide receiver 38. Not technically a wide receiver 3 finish, but only 2 spots off. If he's fully healthy, I see no reason as to why he can't finish in the top 40, as long as, Dak Prescott and Dallas hits their ceiling, which they should. I mean, Dallas is historically a good offense. So I do like taking him as a flyer in the 15th round as well. So I do really like your draft. Let's take a look at yours. So we got, let's see, Lamar. Let's start off with quarterback and tight end. Easy to address because you only got one of each through 15 rounds. Now, obviously, if this were a real dynasty startup, if we only had 15 rounds, we probably would have both grabbed a QB2 at some point. But your one QB dynasty startups is probably going to have closer to 20, maybe 25 rounds. We're only doing 15 because you saw how much we struggled to talk about the guys in round 14 and 15. Like, yeah, you can project upside all you want. But if we give you 20 guys between rounds 14 and 20, no matter who it is, whether it's me and Tyler or whether it's, whoever, we're going to miss on more than we hit in these late rounds. So not really a big need to talk about those. But with that being said, if you are interested in a video of purely late round flyers, let us know. Tyler and I would be more than happy to put something like that out there if the content is desired. But Tyler, Lamar Jackson, Pat Freiermuth, you got your top 5 quarterback. You got your top 10 tight end. I think pretty solid rooms that you put together right there.
Yeah, I think at cost, I mean, I probably could have still swapped. Like I could have done taking Drake London at the 4-3, and then maybe like I don't know, taking Dak at the 9-10 instead of Brian Robinson, or like taking like Kyler Murray at the 10-3 or something like that. Definitely could have gone a different route there, but I'm definitely comfortable. Like Pat Fryermuth is one of my favorite values right now because I think he can get up to that Dallas Goedert, George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson tier. But I don't think that he's going to get up. I don't think he's going to get up to Travis Kelce. I don't think he's that good. I'm not a genie though. Whatever, a fortune teller. I cannot tell the future. But I do think that he could be one of the elite options, one of the top 5 options in the league. So I'm comfortable with the tight end room. I'm definitely comfortable with Lamar Jackson, even though I probably should have had a different receiver. And because the reality, what's the difference between Lamar Jackson and like Kyler Murray? The fact that I could have gotten Kyler Murray in the 10th round, I would have been a lot more comfortable with that. So going back, I would have taken Drake London and thrown him as my, second flex, and I would have punted Lamar
Well,
Jackson down to Kyler Murray later, and then
well,
taking a Gino or Jared Goff or something later.
well, don't forget though, the issue with taking Kyler Murray instead of Lamar Jackson, even though it is a 6th-round discrepancy, you're punting 2023 at that point. I mean, like in one quarterback leagues, you definitely can do it without elite quarterback play. But if Kyler Murray is a guy that you take in round 10 with the idea that he's going to be your RB1, I mean, at round 14 or round 15, you're going to have to swing for a guy like Geno Smith or Jared Goff or whoever and hope that they can put together a solid enough 2023 for you, right? So, I mean, keep that in mind. One, Lamar Jackson does have a higher ceiling than Kyler Murray. I think you would agree on that one, especially since, we've seen Lamar Jackson just have an absolute bonkers overall #1 season just a couple of years ago. But yeah, I think you're too hard on yourself there, buddy. I'm still fine with taking Lamar Jackson over guys like Kyle Pitts and Drake London, TJ Hawkinson. I think you made the right decision there.
I think looking back, I would so much rather have, taken one of those, taken either the Kyle Pitts, London. I wouldn't have wanted Swift, Debo, Mixon. I think that those 3 guys really, Hawkinson, London, Pitts, really the 3 that, like one of those 3 I should have had on this roster. I would have taken Kyler Murray, and then I would have missed out on Adam Thielen because I would have had to take Jared Goff, and we would have survived that catastrophe of not having Adam Thielen on our roster. So I would have also survived, using Jared Goff for the first 6 to 8 weeks, or that might even be highballing it. We don't know how long Kyler Murray is going to be gone. But, the fact that I spent my 4th-round pick on a quarterback, and I could have had another elite one who's finishes consistently like top 5 when he's healthy. I really wish I could have, taken that route instead of going so early with Lamar.
Well, now you know for next time if that's truly what you want to do. But let's take a look at this running back room. The running back room is definitely the weakest on the roster, I would say. Aaron Jones, aging asset, should be good in 2023, but we don't really know what this offense is going to look like with Jordan Love under center, right? So he's kind of a question mark, RB1. James Cook, kind of like we alluded to, probably more of a safe RB2 in those PPR leagues. And then between Brian Robinson, Samaje Perine, and Izzy Ebanaconda, I think that's how you say his last name. If I said it wrong, yell at me in the comments because I know you guys yell at me all the time when I say players' names wrong. But yeah, how are you feeling about this running back room? You kind of nervous?
I mean, it sucks, but all my running back rooms suck. I don't care. Like, I like Aaron Jones in the 5th round better than I like taking, JT in the first. Well, considering it's a 1 quarterback, yeah, I'm going JT at the 1-9. I'm not like complaining about it. I probably wouldn't go with JT over Garrett Wilson, but yeah, that's probably fair for JT. But still, like if I'm gonna get like I'm getting more than half the production out of Aaron Jones than I would get out of Jonathan Taylor. So I'm good with going there. James Cook is a huge question mark. I have not a whole ton of faith in him, but he was my favorite player on the board at the time. And we don't talk about him much. And then, Brian Robinson is a guy that I do like to draft because I think that Washington likes him better than I like Antonio Gibson. Although I'm with you, I like Antonio Gibson better than Brian Robinson. I think he's a better running back, but that's not the case for what Washington has at least shown us this past year. Like Brian Robinson got shot and ended up being effectively like a real lead. I don't even know if you could call him a lead back in that offense in terms of the amount of carries that or the amount of like snap share that he got. He got a lot of carries, but it wasn't totally dominant. Like Antonio Gibson still did bite into that. So I hate it, but it is what it is. I don't care.
That's all right. Like you said, your running back rooms you have a type, and your type is punting on the running back room, but you make up for it in your receivers. There's no disputing Wilson, Waddle, JSN, and Ridley. I mean, that not trio.
Quadro.
That quadro. There you go. That's a phenomenal starting for wide receivers. And I mean, if JSN hits his ceiling, which let's face it, he probably will, you have 3 top 10 dynasty wide receivers right there to start this league. And that's pretty damn good, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean that's just what I want the core of my team to be. Like when you look at rosters that you're jealous of, it's usually because they're loaded at wide receiver and you know that they're going to be good for a really long time. So if I want to be good for a really long time and build what's called a dynasty, I'm going to start off with my stud receivers and thank everybody for letting me have them.
That's why it's called Dynasty, buddy. But let's take a look at mine. I'll skip over Trevor Lawrence, touch base on him. You know, he's a safe dynasty quarterback. He's going to have some big weeks, but he's not going to have many small weeks. So we'll take that. I think looking back at it, little buyer's remorse with taking a quarterback that early. Like I kind of wish I would have taken Jordan Addison and then see what happened at 505. But that could have started a domino effect where Miles Sanders is my RB1 and suddenly James Conner's my RB1, and that could have been a really bad situation. So, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. We're fine with T-Law. And then my tight end room, Mark Andrews is my dynasty tight end 1. That has been the case for the last year and a half, and it will be the case for the next year and a half unless Kyle Pitts really breaks out in 2023. So very excited with this tandem here. My running back room, though, bit of a different story than yours, but not by much, right? Like this is one of the weaker running back rooms that I've ever drafted in a 1 QB league. Like I don't remember the last time I punted running back for the first 4 rounds here. But I did, and I have to live with that. But Miles Sanders, James Conner, I'm fine with that as my 1-2 punch. I think they can both be, you know, I think Miles Sanders is a top 15 guy in 2023. I think James Conner is a top 20 guy. Health permitting, if I can put these two together and combine them with the production that I'll get between Andrews, AJ Brown, T. Higgins, Chris Godwin, I'm happy enough with this starting lineup. I mean, it's an immediate contender.
Yeah, I was gonna say this. Like, I think if you looked back at like any of our recent mocks, like this would from this offseason, my running back room, the amount of times I've probably had Miles Sanders and James Conner like leading my room is like probably overwhelming. So I'm glad that I've rubbed off on you in that way a little bit. I like the cost of those guys, so I'm not going to complain. If I complained about that running back room, I would be a big old hypocrite.
Yeah, I'm starting to laugh though. My 1 through 5 pick, dude. If you opened up our main dynasty league, the auction one, that's my roster. Like I literally have all 5 of those guys. Luckily, Miles Sanders is my RB1, but I literally have all 5 of those guys on that roster. So clearly, I had a type.
Yeah, that was that's pretty funny actually. I mean, I guess that's a self bias that you have there from always looking at him all the time. But yeah, I definitely do like that that running back room. Obviously, nothing to complain about as far as AJ Brown, T. Higgins, Chris Godwin go. That's a positional advantage that you have. Throwing Elijah Moore and Michael Thomas out there as flyers as well, and then whatever value you can get out of Sky Moore. I think you did a good job of building this roster. It's probably exactly how I would have built it, if not like very slightly differently. Like I probably would have gone. Like I said, I prefer CD over AJ Brown. That's the real thing right there. Mark Andrews is who I was targeting for the 310. So I love Mark Andrews there. And again, we talked about the quarterbacks in the 4th, how I think I would have rather punted and gone with one of the later guys and bolstered with multiple of them rather than taking one at an expensive cost. But That's usually not a mistake that I make in these one quarterback drafts, but I mean, I guess we've been playing a lot of super flex lately, so it's been rubbing on us.
We have been doing a lot of super flex lately. I always like getting back to the roots in one QB though. I've said it once, I'll say it again. One QB format's always going to be my first love in fantasy, dynasty, best ball, you name it. I prefer one QB. It just is what it is. But before we wrap up this video, let us know down in the comments, whose team did you like more? Did you like my team? Did you like Tyler's team? Usually I'll lobby for myself over Tyler, but I think the choice is pretty obvious this time, so I don't really need to lobby all too much. So let us know what team you like more. But Tyler, before we get going, any closing remarks for the viewers?
Yes, the choice is obvious.
I kind of had a feeling that was coming. But anyway, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And if you are subscribed, make sure you hit that notification bell icon as well to stay up to date with everything that Tyler and I are putting out. Like, comment, all that good stuff. And we will see you next time.